Shep, the envelope, please.
You looking for money? What envelope?
Yes, it's my wedding. No, I thought we were going to give out the first of our year-end ET awards, but I guess not. The ETs are on the way, though, next on Extra Time. Welcome to Extra Time, everybody. I'm Greg Lalas alongside Shep Messing as always, and it's the off season, which means we were out in LA last week for the MLS Cup. It was a great event, wasn't it, Shep? And the best team won.
Hey, Greg, it was a great weekend. You know, look at the New York Red Bull team, really Cinderella run to the final game, but Columbus, they did it all year long. They were the best team.
Can't really say much more about Guillermo Barros-Schelotto either. I have a feeling that he will show up in our second annual ET Awards, which are a little bit later on in the show. I know you've been sitting on the edge of your beanbag chairs for the past week waiting for that to come about. However, I promise you we'll get to those later on. But this first week of the offseason, Shep, has been pretty busy. There was the expansion draft, and later on we're going to talk to Sounders FC technical director Chris Henderson. There were also several trades, rumors of some players moving out of the league, which is a little depressing on my standpoint, and of course, the story of an MLS veteran taking over the vaunted English side Arsenal.
That's unbelievable, that story. Ivan Gazidis, the deputy commissioner of Major League Soccer, he really was a little bit below the radar screen. To me, he's soccer savvy. He's got his finger on the pulse of the sport. He's an attorney, a good businessman. That's a great move for Ivan, great move for Arsenal.
Yeah, it certainly is. Ivan Gazidis, we wish you all the luck in that. He was very active in players and team building, which is fitting then that we start today with the expansion draft. Seattle Sounders FC selected 10 players last week, and if you ask me, Shep, they did a really good job. I mean, you look at what they did. Target man, Nate Jakwa. A good young central midfielder, Brad Evans. A veteran midfielder, Peter Vallenas. And some big central defenders, Jeff Park, Tyson Wall from Kansas City.
Well, first of all, I didn't ask you, but thanks for your opinion anyway. Look, it's an expansion draft. We saw it with San Jose a year ago where they really focused on defenders first. I think Seattle, a much more balanced selection in the draft. To me, they're still role players. It's all about the big guys.
Well, this group, Shep, they seem to have the kind of look of a team that maybe a coach like Ziggy Schmidt would love. I mean, the rumors are all over the place right now that Ziggy Schmidt, the head coach for Columbus, is going to be moving out and taking over at Seattle. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're a coach any place in the world, you look at Seattle, the owners, the potential, the season tickets they've sold, that's a very attractive job. I find it hard to believe that they went out and signed Casey Keller, signed their designated player, Freddie Lundberg, and went through the draft without, I think, knowing what coach is coming.
Well, obviously, there's still lots of questions about Seattle, so we figured we'd go straight to the source for the answers. We're very pleased to welcome to the show now Seattle Sounders FC Technical Director Chris Henderson. Welcome to ET, Chris.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, we're going to start off and put you on the spot with a question about Ziggy Schmidt. Are you looking to hire him as your new coach?
Yeah, I mean, we are still in the process of doing interviews, so I don't think it'd be fair to talk about the coaching process until we finalize that. So I'd rather not comment on the coaching search.
In the draft, you picked up Nate Jakwa at number 1. How much of it was to bring back a guy from the Pacific Northwest, and how important is it to have sort of those local guys on the squad too?
I mean, I think having Nate come back, when he came back from Austria, he said that he'd love to get back to Seattle and come to the Northwest and live again. So I think that's important for team chemistry and having a feeling of the guys being at home and playing for where you come from. And I think that's where some of the USL Sounders can add to that too. And it's hard enough moving a whole team to a new city and getting guys settled and trying to perform at the same time. So I think all those little things will help guys feel comfortable moving to Seattle.
Chris, I know it's early, but give us your thoughts about a day that's going to be very special. It's March 19th. You will open up against New York on national TV on ESPN. Your thoughts about how that game, that day is going to be?
Yeah, it's exciting. I think there's been a lot of buzz around here about that game, and people are really excited to have a national TV game for the first one. And the fans here want to be proud and loud, and the same way the Seahawks are, for their games here. So I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. It brings me back to '96, the way the league was, and I think, Greg, you were there.
I was there. I was.
Just that feeling of excitement and a new team, a new city. I think it's all, it's brand new here, and people are people are really talking about it.
How are you going to keep yourself from jumping on the field yourself?
It's hard. I'd probably only last a half an hour, but it'll be hard.
Chris, good luck from both of us. You are a class act as a player at every level, a class act off the field, and good luck in the new job with Seattle.
Thanks, Shep.
Thanks for joining
having
us,
me on, guys.
Chris Henderson right there, technical director for Seattle Sounders FC. Check out MLSnet.com to watch that entire interview. Let's take a look at some of the news and notes around the league. First of all, MVP Guillermo Barros Schelotto re-signing with the Columbus Crew. That's a huge coup for the Crew, if you will. Before the expansion draft took place, though, a couple of teams wheeled and dealt. To begin with, San Jose sent Jovan Kirovski back to LA. Shep, what do you make of this? It's sort of Bruce Arena's first renovations at the Home Depot Center.
Well, I think that's the magnitude of it. I don't think he's a guy they're going to build a team around,
Nope.
but Bruce Arena, no knee-jerk reaction. He's going to blow that team up. He's going to build it all over.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to do something. In New England, they got rid of Adam Crispin. They sent him to Kansas City for a draft pick and some cash. It seems like the Revolution felt they would lose him in the draft anyway, so they might as well get something for him.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for both. Kansas City was trying to get him before he got hurt. He did score 6 goals in the 18 games he played before he got hurt. Big, strong, tough kid. And you're right, New England figured they're going to lose him, get something.
Well, I think that's a big loss for the Revs. He's a guy who actually did really well coming in for them. Now, the Revs will also be missing Michael Parkhurst most likely, as it looks like he's set to go to Denmark in January. Shep, this is killing me because Parky, I've enjoyed watching him for the last 4 years. He is, to me, the most cerebral American defender ever. And this guy's like our Franco Baresi.
I love your passion. It's killing you.
It's killing me, really.
But don't let it kill you, Greg, because it's really a measure of the credibility and the stature of Major League Soccer. This is the world's game.
Yeah.
Players do well, they get sold. There are transfers in and out. So.
Okay, fine. But is Denmark the place he really wants to go? Because I look at it and I see no difference between Denmark and MLS. In fact, the Danish Superliga I would put below MLS in terms of the level.
Well, it depends on the team, Greg. And you make the argument for a young player trying to develop, and Parkhurst is still young. This could be a great experience for him for a couple of years to grow as a player and come back. But again, welcome to the big time professional soccer. Major League Soccer is now there, buying and selling players.
Well, the moves aren't done for this offseason, that's for sure. I have a feeling a few more players might be needing their passports, maybe Sasha Kleshin, maybe Chad Marshall. There will also be some players coming into MLS, of course, and some players that go to Europe might find that the grass is not always as green over there. Well, the end of the MLS season means different things to different people. Steve Ralston gets to go fishing 24/7. Dwayne De Rosario gets to spin records all night long. And the Home Depot Center gets ready for the X Games. For us here at Extra Time, it means we get to hand out our annual ET Awards.
Well, Greg, our awards, they got lost on that VW cross-country promotional tour, but we have a substitute award.
Wow, I believe that's a Kobe Jones bobblehead from about, 2002.
Easy, Kobe.
Well, we'll give a couple of nominees for each award, and then we'll give the winner. Let's start with the big one, the Man of the Year. Who's the man? Plenty of candidates for this one this year. LD had 20 goals. That's pretty good. The Galaxy were pretty terrible, though. Juan Pablo Angel, he had 14 goals, and then he led the Red Bulls to the MLS Cup final. I mean, pretty impressive what he did. However, the ET for the Man of the Year has to go to Guillermo Barros Schelotto of the Columbus Crew.
Greg, I don't think there's any doubt about it. You mentioned 3 players that had great years, but Schelotto was magnificent. And of course, in the biggest game of the year, an MLS Cup final, when you need to perform, the big player stepped up. He was all over the field, picking up assists, smart, canny, vision, striking the ball. MVP of the final game, MVP of the year, he's our guy.
3 assists in the MLS Cup final, and that pass that he made to Frankie Haydock on the 3rd goal was a piece of magic,
Ridiculous.
That's for sure. Well, some players don't get the recognition that they deserve. For example, San Jose defender Jason Hernandez. He had a great year playing in the back for the Earthquakes. And Columbus's Brian Carroll, who was instrumental in their run to the Cup. But the ET for underrated player of the year goes to Gonzalo Segares of the Chicago Fire.
You know what? Segares really deserves it. I think on a team where Blanco, John Bush, everybody else is getting all kinds, Brian McBride, they get the attention. Yep. He was unbelievably consistent. So well done him getting the award.
And unfortunately, the guy didn't even make it to the best 11 considering the year that he had. I thought that was a sort of a travesty of justice right there. Well, there were several devastating injuries this year that really hurt teams. Steve Ralston going down just before the playoffs. That severely weakened the Revolution's midfield when he went down under that tackle from Hercules Gomez. Michael Galindo of Chivas USA, his offseason injury problems decimated the GOAT's attack. I mean, here's a guy who had done so well the year before, had nothing the next year when he comes in. But the injury of the year for 2008 goes to Ben Olsen of DC United, who, what did he play, 45 minutes this year?
Yeah, well, Greg, again, this award is based on the impact on their team. Right. So clearly, Ralston affected New England, and this has nothing to do with the commercial success for Ben Olsen. Yeah. He was the heart and soul of that team, and without him working on both sides of the ball in the midfield, I think it hurt Gallardo, it hurt everybody on the team. They lost that energy, that character, that defensive bite. That's why he gets the award.
Well, there's also, of course, the guy who comes off the bench, gives a little energy, a little spark. For Dallas, that was speed demon Dominic Oduro, who scored 5 goals this year. Columbus had rookie Steven Leonard, who also had 5 goals this year in just 12 appearances. But the ET for 12th Man of the Year goes to Justin Braun of Chivas USA.
Well, first of all, I like the way he looks, his stature. I like his name, but he also had the opportunity to shine because of all the injuries for Chivas up front.
Good point. Good point. Teams often try to remake themselves mid-season. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But mid-season pickups can have a massive effect. This year, Chicago acquired Brian McBride, who scored 5 goals in 11 games. Houston got a lift from Nate Jaqua, who had 4 goals and 4 assists actually in 14 games. But the ET for mid-season pickup of the year goes to who else? Darren Huckerby of the San Jose Earthquakes.
Yeah, Greg, we agree on that. I mean, he really rejuvenated that team. They never had much going forward until they brought in Huckerby, and he was a ball of energy, going to goal, getting assists, getting goals. They fell a little bit short, not because he didn't do the job.
A great mid-season acquisition. Of course, not every acquisition works. Each year in MLS, there are more than a few big foreign imports that wind up being lemons. This year, Kansas City got an overpriced clunker named Ivan Trujillo, 1 goal in 17 appearances. New York had a couple of disappointments. We could take anyone. Juan Petrovallo comes to mind, probably leads the way. But the ET for Foreign Bust of the Year goes to Celestine Babayaro, who I don't think he ever played for LA, actually.
Greg, we're going to be laughing about this one for a long time. Ruud Gullit brings him in from Newcastle, thinks he has a superstar, and the guy is dogging it in practice. So we're going to laugh about that one, but he gets the clear-cut award this year.
Well, he lasted a month, and then he was gone. Babayaro, a pretty boneheaded move right there. But he wasn't alone in his boneheadedness this year. There were several silly own goals, of course. Plus, Andy Grunenbaum's letting Danny Sapero score on him from 80 yards. Of course, there was also the moronic drug scandal in New York. But the ET for boneheaded play of the year has to go to Fabian Espindola's flip.
Espindola. I mean, if it weren't so painful, we'd also still be laughing about that. I mean, to celebrate a goal like that, break his leg, hurt his team, unbelievable. He gets it.
And the goal was actually called back, so it didn't even count. It was a ridiculous celebration for sure. Well, celebrations didn't always wind up in injury. There were no Clint Dempseys around MLS anymore, but there were a couple of good celebrations this year. Frankie Hayduk did that weird reggae dance at the MLS Cup final. Kele Dube's South African Zulu dance honoring his mother. That was a lot of fun until he stopped scoring. But the ET for the best celebration of the year goes to Ramiro Corrales and Ronnie O'Brien of San Jose for their Captain Morgan's pose.
Greg, I hated to give them that award because
Why?
I'll tell you why. Because it really showed that it took planning, orchestration. They worked on it during the week. I mean, they deserve the award, but I like things a little bit more spontaneous.
All right, fine. Well, where would MLS be? Where would ExtraTime be without the fans, Shep? I mean, let's be honest, right? There are some great fans. Obviously, Toronto FC, fantastic fans. The Red Patch Boys, they showed up again this year. Secondly, down in Houston, the Texian Army and El Batalon, those guys made a huge sea of orange every time at Robertson Stadium. But the supporters of the year, the ET, the Kobe Jones bobblehead, goes to the Columbus Crew fans of the Nordic.
Yeah, rightfully so, Greg, and I'll tell you why. Because they had a moment during this season when it wasn't going well. And as a supporter group, as a fan base, they nipped that problem in the bud. They rallied their forces. They brought out everything good in the game. So they get the award.
Absolutely. The Hudson Street Hooligans, the Crew Union, all the fans for the Columbus Crew in that magnificent Nordic, a well-deserved ET this year. The ETs, of course, they'll be back 12 months from now, so sit back and relax on your beanbag chair. Next week, the entire show is devoted to the fans, so be sure to send as many emails as you want about the last season, the off-season, the expansion draft, whatever. We'll get some answers to that. The email address is extratime@mlsnet.com. So join us next week for that, and we'll kick it around.